when I protested back in the day, I did have the opportunity to and the privilege to march with Martin Luther King and some of the other mega evers, and it was for change. And I agree with Steve that people were emotionally hurting, and this was the opportunity to say, yes, I am going to come together with people of like mind, and we're going to hold a peaceful protest to let the world know that there's things that need to be continue to be changed. There are things that need to continue to be addressed in the United States.
But I think for the past week, there have been peaceful protests every day. And I'm supposed to be planning. There's one in my small town on Sunday that I'm going to participate in. But I think that now that the movement is still going, it's calmer, which is a lot better. But I think the pace is a little slower, but it's still moving. So
But I saw some young leaders in Nashville emerge when 4 young teenagers organized a peaceful march. And I did not attend, but what I saw, and some of my daughters attended, I was really moved by that. And those were some young people who stood together and stood for what they believed in.
That's what protests are for. Protests are to wake people up, to get your attention, and to bring attention that change needs to occur. And so, is everyone woke up? Definitely not. We could protest, and we have been protesting, and we have been standing up, and we have been screaming and asking and pleading and marching for 50 years and haven't been able to get anybody's attention until, finally the world is at a halt because of the coronavirus. And as it stands, this was the only thing on TV. And so finally people had to pay attention. Thank God. Okay. And so I do think that the protests are getting people's attention.
The protests are still going on. I would say they've gotten stronger because of our police department, making things so much worse. And people were very much outraged. In the beginning, there was tear gas and a lot of, sort of massive force coming out against protesters. So I think that enraged people.
At one point, it was like this big, massive, like melting pot of everybody coming together. Then of course the police came and kind of agitated the crowds, and which caused the looting and the rioting and everything like that. So they kind of shut the city down. And so because they shut the central part of the city down, the protests had to move into the more urban area.
I see.
And so then that's when really became really bad into the rioting and looting.
Right.
And so there were some protests, but when I tell you, some of my coworkers and things posted online, it was like, what are they doing to my city and all of this stuff? So there were a few protests, and then within a week, there were protests by younger people, which was inspiring because it did start off and it was peaceful. And then there was a little bit of, breaking of windows and such. And then it was easy to then turn it into, look what they did. And this is ridiculous. And so then it went that way.
I immediately, to be totally honest, got angry. And I got angry at the people who I think of as opportunists, who use the fact that something is going down or people are upset, and they use it to be bad actors and break into things and start trouble and escalate things when they don't need to be escalated.
I do not agree with any of that, even though when I think about the riots in Detroit back in the 60s that just did so much devastation, there's always that question, why do you burn down your own stuff? you know, but yeah, what you saw were people who were pushed to the edge in these protests, and the deaths of these individuals and the socioeconomic issues that are in the country, it's not the best at this time.
It's not really, I don't think it's an accident. Those people are there for a particular reason. The media is there for a particular reason. So, you know, it's like Gary was saying, if you're there at the demonstrations, then what you see in real time is nothing like what you see on TV, because television show the most exciting and most dynamic thing that happens. And the thing that breaks my heart about that is, even here in Nashville, the vast majority of everything that happened downtown was completely peaceful, very impactful, people getting their message out. And then somebody goes and sprays something on the side of the State House, and everybody goes nuts, and they're taking pictures. And I have friends texting me from all over going, oh, is Nashville coming apart? I'm like, no, Nashville's fine. But the problem to me is, the reason why these people do this is it does take away from the underlying disease and starts putting focus on different symptoms of that disease. We're looking at these demonstrations, and instead of us talking about the fact that there's millions of people out there now marching peacefully and saying we got to do something different, we're talking about riots, we're talking about looting. Every conversation I have starts with that. And it just kills me.
So I'm saying the protests are great, but we've got to transition into some action items, and the Black community also has to really get into what are our asks. You know, that's been coming up lately. What do we want out of this? We need to understand, where do we go from here? And as a community, if people are coming to us,